I never thought I'd see the day when I'd look at my own parents and feel nothing but disgust. People always say family is supposed to be your safe place, your foundation when the rest of the world feels shaky. But what happens when the ones who brought you into this world become the ones who try to destroy the one thing you love most? Tell me honestly, if your parents stole from your dying child's life, saving surgery fund, what would you do? Would you still forgive them just because they're family? Or would you make them regret it? Because that's the exact nightmare I had to live through, and I'll never see them the same way again. It started about 2 years ago when my little girl, Emma, who was only 6 at the time, got diagnosed with a congenital heart condition. She was my entire world, bright, full of life, and always the kind of kid who'd bring home stray cats just because she thought they looked lonely. The diagnosis came out of nowhere. One day she was running around our living room with her stuffed bunny, and the next she collapsed mid-laugh. We rushed her to the hospital, terrified, praying it was just exhaustion or dehydration. But the doctor's face told me everything before his mouth did. He explained that her heart had a defect and she needed surgery within the year, or she wouldn't make it. The cost, $68,000. It might as well have been $1 million to me at that time. I was a single mother. Emma's father had left when she was just a baby, said he wasn't ready to be a dad, and disappeared into the wind. So it was just me and Emma, fighting through life together. I worked as a nurse, decent pay, but between bills, rent, and taking care of my daughter, saving that kind of money felt impossible. I cried every night for weeks after the diagnosis, but giving up wasn't an option. I set up a GoFundMe page, explained Emma's condition, shared pictures of her smiling face, and prayed that the world had some kindness left in it. And for a while it did. Donations trickled in, $10 here, $50 there. People from all over the world sent kind messages and prayers. Some even sent toys or cards for Emma. My coworkers at the hospital organized a charity drive. We sold cupcakes, held raffles, even did a small community event. I couldn't believe how much support we were getting. Within 7 months, we had managed to raise the full amount, $68,000. I remember that night clearly. I held Emma in my arms, sobbing with relief. I told her, "You're going to be okay, baby. Mommy's got you." It felt like the first breath of peace after drowning for so long, and then everything went wrong. See, my parents and I never had the best relationship. My dad was always a gambler, not in the casual poker night with friends way, but in the pawn his wedding ring for one more hand way. My mom, on the other hand, was the kind of woman who cared more about appearances than people. Growing up, I was the scapegoat, constantly compared to my older brother, Daniel, the so-called golden child. He could burn the house down, and they'd still find a way to blame me for leaving the matches out. So when I told them about Emma's condition, I expected sympathy, but what I got was manipulation. They showed up at the hospital the day after the diagnosis. My mom brought flowers, my dad brought his fake smile, and they hugged me like they suddenly cared. "We'll help however we can," my mom said, her voice dripping with the kind of sweetness that never reached her eyes. My dad nodded along. "Yeah, sweetheart, we'll make sure Emma gets through this." For a brief, stupid moment, I believed them. Maybe this crisis had softened them. Maybe they were ready to be real grandparents. When the GoFundMe reached its goal, I told them the good news. We celebrated together at their house. I remember my dad patting me on the back, saying how proud he was of me, and my mom making Emma's favorite meal, mac and cheese with extra cheese. It almost felt normal, safe. I even remember her saying, "You know, honey, if you want, we can help you keep the money safe. I know how hospitals can sometimes overcharge. We can manage the funds until the operation." I declined immediately, but she insisted, "We're family. Don't you trust us?" Those words stuck in my head like poison. A week later, I got a call from the hospital. They said the deposit for Emma's surgery hadn't gone through. Confused, I logged into my account. My stomach dropped. The entire $68,000 gone, vanished overnight. I remember just staring at the screen, my heart pounding so hard I thought I'd faint. I refreshed it over and over, praying it was some kind of banking error. But the numbers didn't change. I called the bank, my voice trembling, and after a few security checks, the woman on the other end told me that the transfer had been authorized by me. Except I never made any transfer. She said the money had been moved to another account under a familiar name, my father's. I went numb, my body felt cold, my mind blank. It took me a few seconds before I even realized I was screaming. I called my dad immediately, but he didn't answer. Then I tried my mom. She picked up on the third ring, sounding almost annoyed. "What's wrong, dear?" I could barely speak. "Where's the money?" I yelled. "What money?" She replied, pretending not to understand. I shouted louder. "The surgery fund, Mom. The money for Emma." There was a pause. Then she sighed like I was inconveniencing her. "Oh, that," she said casually. "Your father needed a little help with something. Don't worry, we'll get it back soon. I lost it. You stole from your own granddaughter. She needs that surgery to live." My mom tried to calm me down, saying things like it's just temporary, and family helps family. But all I could hear was the ticking clock of my daughter's failing heart. I hung up, shaking uncontrollably. Within an hour, I was at their doorstep, banging on the door like a madwoman. When my dad finally opened it, he looked guilty, but defiant. "Calm down," he said. "We didn't steal it. We just borrowed it. I had a sure bet at the casino. I was going to triple it. You'll get it back, and then some." I almost slapped him. "You used my daughter's surgery money to gamble." I screamed. My mom stepped in, saying, "Lower your voice. The neighbors will hear." I didn't care. I was sobbing, shaking, ready to tear the house apart. "Do you even realize what you've done? If Emma doesn't get that surgery, she could die." My dad had the audacity to roll his eyes and say, "Stop being dramatic. Everything will be fine." That was the moment something inside me broke. I realized I wasn't dealing with parents. I was dealing with parasites wearing their faces. I went straight to the police, thinking it would be a straightforward case. But because I had given my parents access to some financial details during the fundraising, they had helped me with a few transactions before. It turned into a mess of consent confusion. The officer told me it would take time to investigate and even longer to recover any funds, if they weren't already gone. My lawyer later confirmed what I feared. My father had drained the account, gambled the money away, and was now in deep debt to people you don't want to owe money to. That night, I sat beside Emma's hospital bed, watching her sleep with tubes running into her tiny arms. I felt like the worst mother in the world. How could I have trusted them? How could I have let my parents, the people who raised me, destroy my daughter's chance at life? I didn't eat, didn't sleep, didn't even cry anymore. I was empty. Then the hospital called again, this time with a warning. Emma's condition was worsening faster than expected. They couldn't delay the surgery much longer. I had maybe a few weeks. I begged the hospital to let me pay in installments or buy time, but they needed at least half upfront to schedule it. That was $34,000. I didn't have any more. Desperate, I started working double shifts. My coworkers covered for me where they could. I even sold my car, but it wasn't enough. I called my parents every day, demanding they return what they took. My mom stopped answering. My dad blocked my number. I even went to my brother Daniel, hoping he'd talk some sense into them. But guess what? He already knew. In fact, he admitted they had told him they'd borrowed the money for a few weeks. He said, "You know, Dad, he's just trying to fix things his way." I asked him if he even cared that his niece could die. He just shrugged and said, "It's not my fault you trusted them." That was when I realized no one was coming to save me. Not the police, not the law, not family, just me. I had to figure out a way to fix this, even if it meant destroying the people who destroyed us. And before I tell you what I did next, what I had to do, I want you to stop for a second and think. If your parents stole $68,000 that was meant to save your child's life, what would you have done? Would you go to the police, or would you make them regret it in your own way? Because that's the choice I was about to make. And trust me, what happened next changed everything. After that night, I stopped crying. Something inside me hardened. I used to believe that family could be broken, but not destroyed. I don't believe that anymore. That night, I sat in the dim light of Emma's hospital room, her tiny hand curled around my finger, and I made myself a promise. I would get that money back, no matter what it took. I didn't care about forgiveness, I didn't care about blood ties, and I definitely didn't care about what people would think of me. All I cared about was Emma's heartbeat, and I wasn't going to let anyone stop it. I started by digging. My father had always been careless when it came to hiding his tracks. He was the kind of man who'd lie to your face while his phone notifications told the truth. I remembered the old desktop computer in their house that my mom used for online shopping and my dad used for, well, everything else. So I paid them a visit, but this time I wasn't the crying daughter. I was calm, cold, and polite. My mom seemed relieved to see me acting normal. She said, "I told you, honey, it's just a misunderstanding. Your father's working on it." I nodded and smiled, pretending to believe her, while my eyes scanned the living room. The computer was still there, and I noticed my dad's login info scribbled on a sticky note stuck to the monitor. Old habits die hard. That night, when they were asleep, I drove back, quietly picked the side window lock. Years of working in emergency rooms made me good at improvising with tools, and got inside. Sit, Earchzing, bank records. Thomas sat at the other end of the table with his own plate. Transaction histories. What I found made my stomach twist. Multiple transfers not just to his casino accounts, but also to a woman I didn't recognize. Thousands of dollars sent to her over months. My father wasn't just a gambler. He was cheating on my mother. The man who destroyed my child's future was living a double life, funding it with blood money meant to save his granddaughter. I took screenshots of everything, the transfers, messages, even his online chats. Then I found something worse. My mom knew. She'd been covering for him, deleting certain emails, and even transferring small chunks of money herself to keep him out of legal trouble. That's when the reality hit me. They didn't just steal from me, they planned it together. The next day, I went straight to a friend of mine, Sarah, who worked in the hospital's legal department. She helped me organize the screenshots, trace the transactions, and prepare a solid timeline of everything. But she warned me, even with this, getting the money back could take months. Legal systems are slow. You don't have that kind of time. And she was right. Emma's condition was deteriorating faster than ever. Her surgery was now urgent. I had maybe 3 weeks left before things got critical. So I decided to take matters into my own hands. I wasn't going to wait for lawyers or courts. I was going to expose them publicly, brutally, and in a way that would make them feel the same kind of helplessness I'd felt watching Emma fade away. My first move was simple. I went back to the GoFundMe page and updated it. I wrote, "To everyone who helped us, thank you. Unfortunately, the funds were stolen by people I trusted most. My daughter's life is still at risk. I can't share names yet, but I promise the truth will come out soon." That post exploded. People started sharing it, commenting, asking what happened. I didn't respond, not yet. I wanted the tension to build. Meanwhile, I went to my parents again, this time pretending to beg. I told them Emma's surgery date was confirmed, that we needed the deposit immediately. My dad avoided eye contact, mumbling something about bad investments. My mom said, "We're trying, sweetie, but you have to be patient." I looked her dead in the eye and said, "Patient, that's not something my daughter has the luxury of being." I walked out before she could say another word. That night, I uploaded everything. Every screenshot, every transaction record, every message between my parents about the borrowed money. I posted it all, anonymously, to a local community Facebook group where everyone knew everyone. The caption simply read, "What would you do if your parents stole $68,000 meant for your dying child's surgery and gambled it away?" Within hours, it spread like wildfire. Neighbors, coworkers, church members, everyone was talking about it. My parents' phones must have exploded. They called me nonstop, but I ignored every call. The next morning, I went viral. Someone connected the dots to my GoFundMe page. News outlets started picking up the story. Headlines read, "Grandparents steal from child's life. Saving fund." My parents' faces were everywhere. My mom's social media was flooded with hate comments. My dad's gambling buddies started turning on him. I even got messages from people who claimed he owed them money too. The community that once respected them now despised them. And for the first time in my life, I felt a sense of justice. But the story didn't end there. The exposure had consequences, big ones. My dad got fired from his job. My mom's reputation as the sweet church lady was destroyed. Their house got vandalized with words like thieves and child killers. They tried to hide, but it was too late. The entire town knew. Eventually, they showed up at the hospital, begging to talk. My mom was crying, her mascara running down her face. "You ruined our lives," she said. I laughed. "You ruined my daughter's chance to live, and you think I ruined your life." My dad tried to play the victim, saying, "You don't understand. I thought I could win it back." I stepped closer and said, "You gambled my child's heart for chips and beer. Tell me, how do you win that back?" He didn't answer. I turned and walked away, leaving them standing there in their shame. But as much as I wanted to revel in their downfall, I still had one problem: Emma's surgery. Despite all the exposure, we still didn't have the money. Donations had stopped after the scandal. People didn't know if they could trust the situation anymore. I didn't blame them, but then something unexpected happened. A local journalist reached out, asking for an interview. He said, "People deserve to hear your side directly. Maybe it'll help." I hesitated, but eventually agreed. The interview aired on local TV that weekend. I sat there, holding Emma's hand, telling our story, from the diagnosis to the betrayal. I didn't name my parents directly, but I didn't have to. Everyone already knew. I spoke with as much honesty and pain as I could. I ended the segment by saying, "This isn't about revenge. It's about accountability. If someone can steal from a child fighting for her life and still sleep at night, what does that say about the kind of world we live in?" That interview changed everything. Within 24 hours, donations poured in again, not just from locals, but from people all over the world. Messages of support, prayers, and love flooded my inbox. Within a week, we had $70,000, enough to pay for Emma's surgery and post-op care. I couldn't stop crying when I saw the total. The world that had once felt so cruel suddenly felt kind again, not because of my parents, but because of strangers who cared more than blood ever did. The day of the surgery arrived. I held Emma's tiny hand as they wheeled her into the operating room. She looked up at me, her eyes wide but calm, and said, "Mommy, can I have pancakes when I wake up?" I smiled through tears and said, "As many as you want, baby." Those were the longest 6 hours of my life. Every minute felt like an eternity. But finally, the surgeon came out, smiling. "It went perfectly," he said. "She's going to be okay." I collapsed right there in the hallway, sobbing. Relief, exhaustion, joy, all at once. My little girl was safe, alive, breathing. The nightmare was finally over. A week later, I got a call from the police. Turns out, after the public exposure, multiple people came forward accusing my father of fraud and theft. He'd been running small scams for years, using fake business fronts and gambling with stolen money. My mother had been helping him cover it up. Together, they were facing multiple charges. The officer asked if I wanted to press charges for the stolen surgery fund. I didn't hesitate. "Yes," I said, "every single one." When the case went to court, they tried to play the family misunderstanding card. My mom cried on the stand, saying they only borrowed the money and that I was cruel for turning on them. But the judge wasn't moved. Between the bank records, my screenshots, and the witness statements, there was no escaping the truth. They were both sentenced to prison, my dad for theft and fraud, my mom for accessory and obstruction. Watching them get led away in handcuffs was strange. I thought I'd feel triumphant, but all I felt was empty. Because while justice was served, the love I once had for them was gone forever. They weren't my parents anymore. They were just two strangers who happened to share my DNA. Months passed. Emma recovered beautifully. She went back to school, started dancing again, laughing again. Every giggle she made felt like sunlight. Sometimes she'd ask about Grandma and Grandpa, and I'd tell her the truth, but in pieces she could understand. They made a mistake, I'd say, and sometimes when people make bad choices, they have to face the consequences. She'd nod, thoughtful, then go back to playing. She was stronger than I'd ever been. One evening, I got a letter from my mom from prison. She wrote, "I'm sorry. We never meant for things to go this far. Please let us see Emma one day." I stared at that letter for a long time, then tore it in half. There are some things you can't come back from. Stealing from your dying granddaughter's heart fund is one of them. Today, I'm still rebuilding. Emma's doing great, and I'm saving again, but this time for her future, not her survival. I've learned that family isn't about blood. It's about love, trust, and loyalty. Sometimes strangers can become your real family when the people who should have protected you are the ones holding the knife. So tell me, was I wrong for exposing them publicly? Should I have kept quiet and handled it privately? Or did they deserve every ounce of shame they got? Because I know one thing for sure: if I hadn't done what I did, my daughter wouldn't be alive today. And if anyone, even my own parents, ever tries to hurt her again, I won't just fight back, I'll make sure they never get the chance. If you are on my side through this story, please like this video. It helps more than you know. Share your thoughts in the comments. I really want to know what you'd have done in my place. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this, because sometimes the truth is stranger and darker than fiction. I'll see you all in the next story.